Hey CBC, grace to you again this week. I want to do a little bit of confessional this morning. I love to snoop in bookshelves. I absolutely love it. If I've ever been to your house, I've probably spent at least a few minutes kind of just looking at the books that you keep around. I get so much pure enjoyment out of seeing what people have read that I don't know whether it actually does or not, but I like to believe it's a little window into their soul. It gives me a little bit of insight into who they are. Because the stories that we read, and probably more importantly, the stories that we read and then that we read again, shape us. I mean, no one keeps a book around that they didn't like. Every book on my shelf gives me a glimpse into how I became who I am. What pathway did I take to get here and think the things I think, believe my beliefs? It's why the stories that we tell matter. For a lot of years, all Canadians generally agreed on what the story was that mattered. It was a story of a world frozen by dark and cold, giving way to the rising sun and spring's new life being born again. It was a story told through our statutory holidays and churches with the best plots of land in town, through our calendars and our geography. It was told through our city budgets and school programs, with our dollars and our bank books. It was told so regularly, so efficiently, and so effectively in every area of life that some churches began to think that they didn't need to be storytellers anymore. But then things changed. And with the dawning of a secular age, our cities, province, country, and world all politely informed us that they would not be doing the job of telling our story for us anymore. Some churches waited to see if Canada would change its mind. Some churches just didn't notice that anything was different at all. And the rest of us have been here week after week, faithfully trying our best to learn how to tell a good story. Because the church believes that stories matter. It's in our DNA. I mean, it was the women and their story that caused the disciples to come running to that tomb on Easter morning. It was the story that the apostles told that set the world on fire at Pentecost. It was the story that changed my life and has probably changed your life. Someone once wrote that the Bible didn't give rise to Christianity. Christianity gave rise to the Bible. More specifically, the event that started Christianity gave rise to the Bible. See, the story that we live in, the story that we tell, the story that we find so compelling is that something happened 2,000 years ago that defies all other explanation. Something happened 2,000 years ago that caused women's testimony to be believed in a society where it wasn't. Something happened 2,000 years ago that caused Saul of Tarsus to switch sides and stop being a persecutor of the church, its most virulent opponent, and becoming its greatest champion, its hero. Something happened 2,000 years ago that led Christians in Rome to be so convinced that it was more true that they were willing to be pulled apart by lions or set on fire its torches rather than deny its existence. Something happened 2,000 years ago that changed everything. That is the power of a great story. A great story can change our world. And our world is starving for stories. I mean, you don't need to look any further than the rise of prestige television or the cinematic universe to see how thirsty, how hungry, how desperate our world is, not just for stories, but for great stories. Our world needs storytellers. And the church has a name for those people. We call them evangelists. And whatever specific image that word conjures for you, whatever taste that word leaves in your mouth, we're all probably picturing something similar. We're all picturing a person standing up at the front of a crowded room or an auditorium or a tent and telling you to give your life to Jesus. Come and be baptized, or come to the altar. And that picture made sense in a world that had already heard the Jesus story 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways and simply needed someone to explain what the next step was. Someone to explain what that story means. But in the secular age, I want to suggest that the storyteller might be a more appropriate image for the world we find ourselves in. Because after all, the evangel is a story. The gospel is a story. It's a story of God doing a new thing all around us and at the same time doing a new thing within us. It's a story of an empty tomb and graves turning into gardens. It's a story of ordinary men and women and children choosing to breathe extraordinary grace into every ordinary area of every ordinary life. And today the evangel needs its ists. It needs storytellers weaving grace into neighborhoods, weaving grace into workplaces, weaving grace into homes. Telling a story with our life that's not just good, but great. So, what story do you want to tell with your life? As always, I love getting to connect with you. I love getting to connect with you in a million different ways, whether it's here like this, or in a letter, or on Sunday morning virtually, or in person, whether it's a phone call or an email through the week, whether it is a text message or chatting on Facebook Messenger, whatever it is, whatever way you want to connect or connect best, I relish the opportunities to stay connected with this church. So thank you. Be blessed. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.